Have you ever heard of the god's wife of Amun? It sounds like a grand, divine title, and in many ways, it was. But behind this prestigious role lies a fascinating and complex story, one that reveals the intricate blend of religion, power, and politics in ancient Egypt. Let's journey back thousands of years to unravel the truth about these so-called sacred virgins and their connection to the Pharaoh's palace. First, let's clear up a common misconception. The title God's Wife of Amun wasn't about being a literal wife to the god Amun-Ra. It was a powerful religious and political office held by some of the most influential women in the New Kingdom, particularly from the 18th dynasty onwards. These weren't just any women. They were often the daughters or sisters of the reigning pharaoh. Think of it as the ultimate power move, placing a loyal family member at the head of the most important religious cult in the land. The cult of Amun-Ra, based in Thebes, what we now call Luxor, was incredibly wealthy. It controlled vast estates, received enormous tributes, and employed thousands of people. By appointing his daughter as the god's wife, the pharaoh ensured that this immense wealth and influence stayed firmly within the royal family's control. It was a brilliant strategy to prevent the powerful priests of Amun from becoming a rival power center, which had happened in the past. So, where does the idea of sacred virgins come from? This is tied to the evolving nature of the role. Initially, the god's wife could be a married woman, often the queen herself. But over time, especially during the third, intermediate, and late periods, the office became associated with celibacy. This wasn't about a vow of virginity in the modern sense. Instead, it was a practical matter. The god's wife would adopt her successor, usually the daughter of the current pharaoh. This created a smooth, unbroken line of succession that was controlled by the royal house, not by marriage or childbirth. By remaining unmarried, the god's wife ensured her loyalty was solely to her divine husband Amun and, by extension, to her father or brother, the pharaoh. Now, what about the ceremony? The installation of a new god's wife was a huge event. Imagine grand processions, elaborate rituals, and public celebrations. The woman would be symbolically united with the god Amun. This was a sacred performance, a piece of religious theater designed to show the public that she was now the earthly counterpart to the god. Inscriptions from Karnak Temple, the heart of Amun's cult, describe these ceremonies. They depict the pharaoh presenting his daughter to the god, solidifying her new status. She would receive new titles, regalia, and her own estate, making her a formidable figure in her own right. So, were they slaves? Absolutely not. This is a major historical misunderstanding. The gods' wives of Amun were the opposite of slaves. They were some of the most powerful and autonomous women in ancient Egyptian history. They commanded their own households, managed vast economic resources, and held significant political sway. They could issue decrees, commission monuments, and were revered as holy figures. In fact, during certain periods, the god's wife of Amun was arguably the second most powerful person in Egypt, right after the pharaoh himself. Let's look at some of the most famous examples. Hatshepsut, the famous female pharaoh, held the title before she ascended the throne. Her daughter, Neferure, also became a god's wife. Later, during the 25th and 26th dynasties, women like Shepenwepet and Nitocris I held immense power from their position in Thebes, effectively governing Upper Egypt on behalf of the pharaohs ruling from the north. Their tombs are some of the most impressive in the Theban necropolis, a clear testament to their wealth and status. The role of the god's wife of Amun was to perform sacred duties for the god. She was the chief priestess, leading rituals, shaking the sistrum, a sacred rattle to pacify the deity, and playing a key role in major religious festivals. She was seen as the human conduit for the god's power, a vital link between the divine and mortal realms. Her purity and dedication were central to maintaining cosmic order, or Ma'at, which was the cornerstone of Egyptian belief. The confusion about slaves of the palace might come from a misunderstanding of the complex social structures of ancient Egypt. The pharaoh's palace was the center of the entire state, and everyone, in a sense, served the pharaoh and the gods. But there was a vast difference between an enslaved person captured in war and a royal princess appointed to the highest religious office in the kingdom. The gods' wives were masters, not servants. They commanded others and controlled fortunes that could rival the pharaoh's. So, to recap, the ceremony wasn't a process of enslavement. It was an investiture, a coronation of sorts, that transformed a royal princess into a powerful priestess queen. It was a political masterstroke that consolidated the pharaoh's power, managed the country's greatest source of wealth, and placed royal women at the pinnacle of Egyptian society. The title, God's Wife of Amun, presents not subjugation, but a unique form of female power and authority that is unparalleled in the ancient world. Far from being slaves, these women were players in the great Game of Thrones of ancient Egypt. It is a powerful reminder that history is often more nuanced and surprising than the sensational headlines suggest. The story of the God's Wife of Amun is not one of oppression, but of empowerment, strategy, and divine authority, showcasing the incredible roles women could play in the land of the pharaohs. Thanks for watching and joining me on this journey back in time. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Egyptian history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories from the ancient world. See you next time.